These mind control techniques create deep attraction, but I'm not talking about mind controlling women. Well, actually, I kind of am. Because the first step to having massive amounts of influence is to have influence over your own mind. And most guys have zero control of their own mind. Their thoughts and emotions are easily influenced by women in society, and their frame is so weak that it evaporates at the slightest bit of resistance. The guys who have the best dating lives have learned to master their mind. They remain solid and composed around women, and women are naturally drawn into this masculine energy. So today I want to talk about the 3 pillars of mental mastery that leads to a very strong frame which women cannot resist. And if you're new to the channel, my name's Joseph. 4 years ago, I was tired of getting mediocre results with dating apps and feeling like I was relying on big tech to meet women. That's when I learned the idea of meeting women in person. And after my first successful cold approach that led to a date, I gained a passion for studying social skills and increasing my confidence. Now, for over a year and a half, I've been coaching men one-to-one, helping them transform their self-image, but then also learn this actual skill set of seduction. All right, the first pillar of mind control that you have to master is your beliefs about yourself. You want to remove these negative, limiting beliefs about yourself that aren't even true. Okay, because these beliefs are completely dictating your thoughts, emotions, and actions right now. And I'll give you an example. So back when I was a door-to-door salesman, I started off in a place where I had a ton of social anxiety. I had never done something like this before, and I was not good at actually getting sales. So for my first 2 weeks, I got 0 sales. And you know, my coworkers, they were sort of comforting me and trying to hype me up and help me succeed. Okay, but after a while, I stayed dedicated, and I actually had this huge transformation where I surpassed all of my coworkers, okay? I started making a lot more sales than they were making, okay? And I remember there was these group of my coworkers who became very envious and jealous that I actually had surpassed them. And a couple of these coworkers in particular happened to be black, okay, and they raised the idea that the only reason that I was surpassing them and succeeding more than they were was because I was white and they were black. Okay, and of course, they even said this out loud, like in a meeting. And of course, what happens when you actually affirm that belief out loud in front of everyone? What happens when that's your belief, walking up to the door of a house, that these people automatically don't like you? Well, you've already accepted defeat in your mind. Okay, you're gonna lack power and conviction in your voice. And of course, these guys, they never surpassed me. They never improved at all. They were doing about 1/3 or 1/4 of the success that I was doing. And here's the funny part about this belief. It wasn't even true. Okay, because we were in a big city, Charlotte, North Carolina. Half the neighborhoods that we were in were black neighborhoods. Okay, I was beating them in black neighborhoods as a white guy. All right, so you need to identify these negative beliefs that have been holding you back from feeling confident and getting any sort of success, no matter how hard you try. And that's the first step, is identifying them, making them aware of how they're actually running your life. And so one example of how you might do this pertaining to women in your social life is notice this when you go out actually into the social environment. You know, because right now, as you're watching this video, these things are gonna be kind of dormant. They're gonna come to the surface when you're actually talking to women or thinking about talking to women. All right, so one example. Let's say that you have no trouble talking to your friends and family, and maybe even some women who are sort of less attractive. But when it comes to whenever you see like an 8 out of 10, or like what someone might consider a 9 out of 10 woman, you can never do it. You can never bring yourself to actually go and approach the girl, or you get into the conversation and you revert back into like old people-pleasing patterns. All right, so that might make you aware of this limiting belief that you feel like you're not good enough for these women, or like these women are out of your league. Okay, so the second step, now that you actually understand what the belief is that's holding you back, is you want to test to see if this belief is even true. Okay, so let's look at evidence that this girl is actually out of your league, or this level of girl. And so the only way that you could actually have true evidence of this was if you had a good enough sample size of you actually talking to these women in the first place. And, just from personal experience, most guys who have that belief haven't even asked out enough 9 out of 10 women to really even be able to draw a rational conclusion. Okay, like if you haven't asked out, I don't know, 10 of these women, then it's probably safe to say that you're probably drawing off not real data in the first place. Okay, so what's the evidence that a guy like you could attract a girl like that? And honestly, whenever I go out, I was just coaching a client in person the other day. And so this guy walked by who was maybe 5'6", and he had acne all over his face. His clothes, he had no fashion, he had no style, but he was walking around with this pretty attractive girl with a good body. Okay, we'll just leave it at that. And I was pointing this out to my client. I was like, see, look at this guy. All right, this guy is definitely not looks maxed at all. He doesn't really look, he kind of looked broke, just to be frank. And look at him, he has a beautiful girlfriend. All right, so just for this example, I see evidence for this all the time. You don't need to be looks max to the brim, all right? You don't need to be money max to the max to actually attract beautiful women. So you need to deconstruct these beliefs with rationality and logic. I don't believe in the whole delusional confidence thing. I just don't think that's real. It's not effective. It's not solid enough. You need to actually build evidence. And so that's why, in this process of changing your self-image and your beliefs about yourself, it's not all about just creating this self-image out of thin air where you say, you know what, actually, I am a Giga Chad, and you know what, I can date models right now. Okay, because in reality, if you're starting in a place where, you're not even able to get a date, it's unlikely that's true, and your subconscious mind's not going to accept that. So what I believe you should do is actually focus on the beliefs that aren't true first, the beliefs that aren't based in reality, and then slowly, over time, change your self-image with evidence, actual wins, real life experiences. All right, but that's the first pillar, is actually mastering your own beliefs about yourself. Now, the second pillar of mind control is to control the frame when you're talking to women. Now, if you saw my last video, you might be a bit confused right now, because in that video, I was actually talking about letting go of control when talking to women. Now, these are two completely different things that I'm talking about for two different levels of people. So in that video, I was talking about letting go of control when you're a guy that has trouble holding a conversation with women and expressing yourself. You needed to let go of control of being a perfectionist and making mistakes and overanalyzing. What I'm talking about now is a bit higher level than that, and I'm talking about controlling the actual frame, the underlying meaning of the interaction, all right? So I hope that clears it up. I know it's a bit complicated, but here's the thing. Most guys already have a good idea of what a high value frame is, right? And they sort of learn the idea of flipping the script with women, where you shouldn't be the one chasing the girl, qualifying yourself to the girl, explaining, seeking validation, but she should actually be the one who's qualifying herself to you. And you're sort of in the position of leverage, because of the idea of hypergamy, which is sort of true to a certain extent. And so most guys have that theoretical understanding, that idea, which is good, all right? Like, I like YouTube videos, I like books, I've gained a lot from it. But here's the problem. When they actually go out into the field and they talk to women, or they think about talking to women, that frame evaporates. So they start talking to the girl, and then they default back to these automatic patterns of maybe people pleasing or being needy. Okay, for example, I had a client a while ago. Every single time he approached a girl, he had this habit of apologizing to the girl immediately. So it'd be like, hey, excuse me, I'm really sorry to bother you right now, but I had to come over, blah, 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 blah. Every single time he did this, and it was a habit, okay? And by the way, what does that frame show? If you go up to a girl and you're instantly apologizing to the girl, right? It's a low value frame. If you thought you were a high value guy or you had a high self-esteem, whatever you want to say, then you wouldn't need to apologize to the girl. You would actually think you're doing her a favor for going up and saying hi. But anyways, that's what happens with most guys when they actually are out in the field. All right, so what you want to do is you want to be intentional about establishing these new frames with women. All right, so instead of just watching a YouTube video, all right, and theoretically learning it once, when you go out into the field, be conscious about what you're doing, okay? What you can do is like sort of an affirmation. I call it planting and watering your frame. So when you see that attractive girl, say to yourself, okay, that girl's kind of cute, but what I'm gonna do here is see if she's actually good enough for me. All right, so now it's at the top of your mind and you can carry that frame into the interaction and then practice that frame. And so what happens is you can actually notice the result of you carrying that frame then, and you'll notice that the girl, will start qualifying herself to you. She will start chasing you when you hold that frame strong, consciously, intentionally, all right? And then you'll start seeing increased results, okay? And that frame will really solidify itself and then just become natural, right? Because at first you're learning anything new, it's gonna be conscious activity, right? The first time you drive a car, it's gonna be conscious activity. But after a while, it's worked the track into your brain, and now you don't have to think about it anymore. It's gotten to the point where you completely zone out while driving, and then you just come back to reality, driving down the highway 5 minutes later. All right, so you just do that over and over again, and then you establish that frame, and that is pillar number 2 of mind control. Now, the third pillar of mind control is to control your perception of what rejection is. Most guys cannot handle rejection, and that's why they don't take action in the first place, because they knew if they did take action, well, I could get rejected and that would hurt. That would hurt my feelings, right? Or they go into the interaction and because they're afraid of rejection, they play it safe. Okay, so they're friendly, nice guy mode. They're not owning their sexual energy. They're not leading the girl. They're not closing. Okay, and if they do get rejected, they let it totally destroy them. Okay, they dwell on the rejection. They try to think about it. They try to assign meanings about it. They just exaggerate it more than it really is. Okay, and of course, most guys who dwell on it like that, they just quit, very quickly. Okay, so most people think that their emotions come from external events. Actually, your emotions come from your interpretations of external events. So you could choose to make a whole meaning about rejection, or you could understand that rejection is actually meaningless. Okay, because you were the same exact person before and after rejection, right? Like, let's say you approach a girl and then she instantly rejects you. You're the same exact man. Did she change you in any way? Did she knock you down a peg? Absolutely not. All right, you're the same person. So what you have to do is not dwell, and it's okay to feel the sting of rejection. I don't like getting rejected. I'm very competitive. I like success. I like going on dates. I like business success. I like athletic success. All right, I like winning. All right, so I don't like getting rejected. But here's the thing, I don't dwell on it. Okay, I just forget it fast. And there's this concept in athletics, in sports, called forgetting fast. All right, so imagine you're an NBA player and you get dunked on in front of a whole stadium of people. I don't know how many people go to these games, 20,000 people. Just watch you get dunked on. The sports commentator is roasting you, people are screaming at you, right? Imagine being that athlete and just dwelling upon that moment. Man, I just got dunked on in front of everyone, right? Your game would be over. You wouldn't be able to perform. That's the end of your game. And that's what most people are letting be the end of their game with women. It's just getting rejected. They're not forgetting fast. All right, so like an athlete, you need to get over it fast and just start taking more and more action to get your mind off of it. Really, I'm serious. Because what happens when you get a win is it washes it all away. All right, so it doesn't even matter that you got rejected because you won. Like, think about a business owner, right? You could be the business owner who tries one time and then fails, or you could be the business owner who fails 3 times. On the 4th time, all right, now he has a $10 million business. Does the $10 million guy care that he failed 3 times? Anyone who goes for what they want in life is gonna get rejected. They're gonna fail over and over. All right, Thomas Edison, 1,000 tries before he finally got the light bulb. Okay, the only guy who doesn't fail is the guy who never tries. And that's super feminine, right? The guy who never took a risk, the guy who never mastered his emotions. Now, if you see attractive women, but you have a hard time approaching, or you get into the conversation, but it's just not going the way that you want it to go, and you want to work with me personally so that I can help you solve all these problems in a more personalized and structured way so that you can start going on consistent dates with these higher quality women, then you can click the link underneath this video and book a free call with me. That's all I have for the video today. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon.